Innovation and Design Thinking. IDT-VTU Module 1. Theory and Practice in Design Thinking. Part 5. Conduction of Experiments, Results and Discussion. Conduction of Experiments. Span of the experiment was 5 full days like a workshop and conducted at the D School Potsdam campus. Every day experiments started from 9:30 a.m. and went up to late midnights on some of the days. Name for both the project and also the experiment announced as Workshop on Trauma. Participants were given complete information about trauma and their task is developing some helpful approach. Subjects or participants in the study were 40 students, 25 women and 15 men. Background of half of the participants is technical, software systems engineering and the rest of other participants varied as business studies, sports, languages and others. Students' average age is 22.71 years and studied in the 4.82 semester. 50% of the students had been trained by the D School and rest of them were not has such training. Students assigned into the multidisciplinary versus mono team randomly and both the types has the same number of teams and size of each team is 4 members in all the 4 conditions. 1. D School trained, multidisciplinary. 2. D School trained, monodisciplinary. 3. Not D School trained, multidisciplinary. 4. Not D School trained, monodisciplinary. Because of illnesses, there were small changes in the participants' number on some of the days. See the figure. Figure shows total 12 teams in this experiment. D School trained multidisciplinary 3 teams. D School trained monodisciplinary 3 teams. Multidisciplinary without D School training 3 teams. Monodisciplinary without D School training 3 teams. Every day multiple observations were made, some of them not even specified in the experiment. The students filled the questionnaires on diverse issues including their satisfaction, their plan and how they spent their time, etc. Photos were taken at all the workspaces and a random sample of teams was filmed throughout the week during the experiment at the D School. The final presentations, about 10 minutes of all teams, were video recorded and the presentations, video recordings and written summaries of the design solutions were made available online. A lecture was given to therapists and clients and the materials are also presented as therapists and clients has to evaluate the design solutions. Such lecture is not given for the students. Results regarding unusualness. D School teams got higher score than non-D School teams matches with the hypothesis. This finding is consistent for both team members and the experts. The students, team members, themselves rated by D School teams solutions 4.06 on average, solutions by non-D School teams 3.65. Experts rated D School teams with a score of 2.80 and untrained teams 2.54. Experts gave lower score than the students. This is because experts have domain knowledge and potential helpful interventions completely than the team members. However, data consistently supports D School teams in the aspect of unusualness. Results regarding usefulness. All the teams performed very well and all the experimental conditions the average score as above 3, indicating the solutions are somewhat helpful. See the table. From the table it can be noted that the data fail to support the superiority of D School solutions in the aspect of usefulness. Non-D School teams were better, 4.25, performed than their counterparts, 3.6. Considering the performance of mono versus multidisciplinary team condition. From the table, it can be noted that among all the teams, multidisciplinary D School trained teams perform worst, 3.17, and monodisciplinary not D-school trained teams perform best, 4.33. Monodisciplinary teams perform better than multidisciplinary teams, and it is consistent for both in the not D-school trained and D-school trained conditions. Interesting question is there any correlation between usefulness and unusualness? When a solution is rather unusual then the solution is useful? Or, when a solution is usual then the solution is useful? Or vice versa, useful solutions or unusual? Useful solutions or usual? Statistical analysis shows the correlation between these two factors is highly significant and negative, 0.547. Results regarding communication problems. See the table. There is consistent variation between untrained teams versus D-school trained teams. See the table. It can be noted from the items 5, 6 and 7 untrained teams experienced more communication problems compared to with D-school training teams. This result is consistent for both multidisciplinary and monodisciplinary teams. All 6 comparisons show less communication problems in D-school teams. Discussion. For the communication problems. The findings of this study almost match with prior expectations of the authors, and no difference between multidisciplinary versus mono teams has been found. D-school teams report less difficulties than untrained teams. Is D-school training improve communication skills and communication problems can be handled easily? Or D-school trained members knew each other as they studied together at the D-school and this closeness yields for reduced communication problems? Alternative explanation. It may be the case for untrained participants also, they had known each other in advance as well. For example, most monodisciplinary teams comprised students of software systems engineering who knew each other from regular courses. This discussion shows that there is some reason to assume that D-school training helps people to develop effective communication strategies. Whether the training does indeed have a causal effect in that regard, and what elements of the D-school experience most powerfully enhance communication skills, are issues that would have to be addressed by further studies. Second issue is innovation. Why were D-school teams, and multidisciplinary D-school teams in particular, outperformed by teams with no D-school experience? Possible explanation is the available time for the task, which is small in this experiment. In a design thinking process, teams are encouraged to explore the problem space copiously before actually deciding on one particular solution. Indeed, this is what D-school teams did in the experiment. Untrained teams, on the other hand, were much quicker to decide. Quite a few of them selected their approach on the first day of the workshop. This left them with a lot more time for developing and refining a prototype. This discussion draws a conclusion: D-school teams would have performed much better if they had a few more days to work on the project. Another explanation for the superiority of non-D-school teams is that the experts did not rate the prototypes presented by the teams. What the experts did rate were the ideas teams had come up with. If the suggestions were to be carried out, how helpful would they be? These school teams spent a lot of time selecting their idea, so the process of evaluation applied in the experiment should not work to their disadvantage. Another issue is the strong negative correlation between usefulness and unusualness. Wild ideas are encouraged in the D-school training. But there certainly is a danger of what may be called an oddness trap. When much effort is put into devising a solution that others will find surprising, solutions may be surpassed that are rather self-evident and yet highly effective. Indeed, These likely solutions may be the most effective ones in some circumstances. A go for the wild approach might be more productive in circumstances when basically all likely solutions have already been explored and something else is wanted. In this experiment, this was obviously not the case. In all conditions, the average expert rating of unusualness falls between 2 and 3, and the experts state they have already considered the solutions presented by the teams. In general, awareness of the oddness trap, knowing that there may be a trade-off between unusualness and usefulness, is only a first step. What one ought to strive for are the means, strategies, and potentially even techniques for avoiding the oddness trap. Falling in love with funny ideas must not deflect designers from the user's true needs. Thanks for watching. Comment for any suggestions. Like, share and subscribe for more videos.